viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. We'll be doing the weekly analysis on the CFDs, crypto, and the commodities, right? So, without wasting time, let's follow the trend as usual. This is the Forex Factory, right? This is where we see the news, the upcoming events for the upcoming week, right? So, on Monday, this is Monday, right? On Monday, that will be on 24 August. So there's nothing. And on Tuesday there's also nothing. There's nothing. These are just orange folders, but you can't be scared about these. These are okay news, right? So on Wednesday, right? That's where the probe starts, right? There's a CPI on the Australian dollar, and then on the US dollar there's PCE price index, and yeah, it's so red folder, right? So you need to be careful on Wednesday because these red folders can be kind of shaky to the market, right? So on Thursday, these are all okay news. Unemployment claims on US dollar. These are okay news. What is it's a orange folder, right? So on Friday there's yeah, on the JPY, I'm sure the market is gonna get kind of shaky, but this is the core CPI, right? So it's an orange folder, but we all know what's gonna happen with the yen, right? So what else? There's the Canadian dollar, right? GDP, and yeah, of course, the US dollar. There's the Fed chairman is gonna be speaking, and what else? Yeah, so you need to be worried about Monday and also Friday. Let's look at the gold, the XAU USD, right? So what happened last week? This is the weekly time frame, right? So this is the kind of last week. All the momentum was on the announcement that happened on Wednesday, right? That's that's where the market was moving. And let's go down to let's do the top down analysis, right? We're using price action. Um, so what can you even expect, right? What can you even expect from gold? I'm gonna be expecting gold to keep going up. You know why I'm saying gold is gonna keep going up, right? Look at the weekly time frame. Look at all this bullish momentum, right? Can we just expect price to just stall or to just end and then it continues with the downtrend with all this momentum? I don't think so, right? I'm expecting price on the higher time frame to reach between 4.996.360, 4.996.360, right? And 584, right? So that's where I'm expecting price to reach, right? So on the daily time frame, let's go on the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, there's this area of interest on the resistance zone, right? So what's happening on the resistance zone? As we can see, all this movement, all this action, this was an area of value, right? So since it is an area of value on the higher time frame, like on the daily time frame, right? What can you even expect? I'm gonna be expecting price. So this is gonna be one of those areas that I'm gonna be interested in, right? If price breaks this resistance zone, right? I'm going to be expecting price to head to this place, right? Break, retest, and then head to this place, and then slow again. Why am I even expecting this? As you can see, this movement, but overall, right? I'm gonna be expecting price to reach this area, right? But not directly, right? Because as you can see on the left side, all this movement, so price is gonna stall on this area. It's not going straight to this area, right? It's gonna stall. Why? Because there is lots of interest here, lots of activities that happened before, right? Before it can reach this zone. So what's gonna happen next week, right? Let's go to the 4 hour time frame, right? So last week price was here, and then there was that announcement, right, about I think it was about Bitcoin. Um, so I think the Fed is now starting to buy the crypto, right? So that was all the action, yeah, and it even shook Bitcoin. It gave it momentum, it gave it volume, whatever you wanna say. So that jump was a necessary move for gold and then crypto also, right? And it even affected the DXY, especially the DXY. It fell, and so back to our story. What's gonna happen next week? I mean, so as you can see, price is here on this area of interest. So can price break this and then go straight to the to this resistance or this area, whatever area or this line? I usually like to make it areas, right? So next week, right? If price if price fails to continue with the breaking the test and then continuation, right? I'm going to expect price to go this between this area, as you can see, this area, right? Or if it doesn't bounce from this area, I'm going to expect price to bounce from this, right? And then continues with the overall trade. I'm going to be on the long side, on the buyer side, right? Because as you can see on the weekly time frame, there's more bullish than bearish candles, right? 3 consecutive weeks of bullish momentum. So you don't want to play with that, right? So, anyways, what else can you even expect next week? So if price right opens on Sunday evening, right? Sunday evening, right? It breaks this, retests it. I'm going to take a long position, right? And I'll be treating it as a swing position, because I'm gonna be holding it up to this area, right? And then maybe here I'll take partials, but I'll be aiming for this area. So if that fails, if price opens with a gap down, of if price right opens heading down, right, these are going to be this is going to be the area I'll be interested in, right? To take a long, like another long. So this is gonna be the first priority of the long position, right? If it fails, I'm going to look for this area. That is if it drops to this area. But but overall, I mean, I'm going to be looking for longs on gold. DXY. So DXY, what happened last week, right? So last week we are here. Last week we were somewhere here. So last week we were somewhere in this zone. And I told you guys that price is going to stall, price is going to range, right? Unless there's unless FOMC, right, was going to make price drop or break this support zone, right? Retest it and then further drop to this area, right? What happened? It didn't reach this area, but it dropped, right? And I was also thinking that maybe let's go on the daily, right? So I was just thinking that price was going to retest this resistance zone. Why? You can look on my the video that I uploaded last week, right? So price was ranging here. So I was expecting price to retest this and then drop, right? This was my thesis last week, right? I was expecting sales overall. I was expecting sales. So what happened, right? So with that announcement that I say that was announced. So this was the candle. This was the whole activity that was on Wednesday. This was Friday. This was Thursday. As you can see, there's no momentum anymore, right? This this engulfed this bullish candle, right? And then it dropped price. So we can just say this was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right? Monday is you can see the candle. And then on Tuesday, it was this bullish small candle. And then there was this announcement for this bearish candle, right? As you can see the length of this candle. And after that, right, there was like no volume on the market at all, right? So what am I even expecting next week, right? I'm still with the same thesis. Price is going to drop, right? Drop where this 98 area between 98.020 and 97.853, right? So I'm expecting price to retest just like in, yeah, price to retest, right? This resi- resistance zone, right? And then it further drops. So that means on gold, right? It might slow or it might continue. Depends on the strategy, right? You can catch it, but the bias is gold is going up. DXY or the US dollar index is going down, right? So I'm going to expect price to retest and then drops. If it doesn't, I'm expecting price. This is going to be our TP level, right? I'm expecting price to reach this area, right? If it breaks this area, right, I'm going to expect this major support zone. I'm not going to buy this. I'm going to be selling this, right? In the on the negative correlated pairs, right? For example, things like gold, Euro USD, GBP USD. I'm going to be buying those. So I'm going with the yen index, right? What happened last week? I told you guys that let's go on the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, right? I told you guys that as you can see, price tried to pierce through this resistance zone and it failed. Right after failing, just went down. As you can see, the sellers were here, right? This candle, as you can see, it's on the weekly time frame, and this is a weekly candle, right? That means there was more sellers. Price even reached this area, but the sellers were more dominant, right? So it ended like this, right? And then there was this week also. So last week I was telling you guys that price was going to drop. Price was going to drop. There was no doubts about that, right? And this the action. This is what happened, right? This is what happened. Price is going down. I think this was so we are on the daily time frame, right? So this is Friday, this Thursday, this Wednesday, this Tuesday, this Monday. So this is what happened, right? Price tried on Tuesday. That was on Wednesday. I think. Sorry, that was on Wednesday. Price tried to go up, and I trade that as a retest, right? And then I entered a position. I was already in a position, but I entered another position. I will show you the pictures, right? On CHF JPY. So, anyways, so price went down, it kept going down. So it is here on this area of interest, on this zone of interest. As you can see, so many candles and so many activities, right? What can you even expect? Price might slow or might range here. As you can see on the left side, look at on your left side, right? All this activity, right? That just means the price might range on this zone, but I'm expecting price to break, right? So let me just okay. I'm expecting price to break, retest, and then keeps going down. And then when it comes to this zone that I drew here, right? I'm expecting this to be my TP level, right? If price reaches this support zone, I'm going to be taking action. Um, this let me delete this alert. So if price reaches this support zone, right, I'm going to be taking action because there is going to be an intervention or something on in September. I mean, there's going to be an intervention, so I don't want to put off guard on this. So I'm going to exit all my positions, right? And then I'll be on the sidelines. Maybe I'll be on the DXY. right? Because last week I didn't trade no DXY. I was on the yen, right? Because of that parabolic trend, right? So I was just like, nah, I'm not going to take any action here. So the thesis of next week is I'm continuing to sell the JPY, right? And if by any chance, right, price reverses, right, I'm going to take buys only if it breaks this resistance zone. But it's going to take a lot of effort for price to reach this. So I'm going to be doing the weekly analysis, right? And my weekly analysis is going to be more sales on this, more sales on this. As you can see, price already broke this resistance zone, right? Maybe it might retest, or we can just say it already retested this, right? And it will keep going down. That's gonna be my thesis on the JPY or the yen index. BTC USD, right? Let's go on the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, all this section, all this section, as you can see, all this section it happened because of Wednesday, right? So what can you even expect next week? Right? What can you even expect next week? So my thesis last week it was if price was going to break this, right? I think price was somewhere here, right? If price was going to break this, right? I was aiming for more sales here. And then I was saying that, right? This is gonna be the place I was aiming for. This support and this support. And if price was going to fail, this is right. I was going to go with this. This was my big quality thesis, right? And I was just saying that price, if price breaks this, right, this resistance retest, I was going to go long on the BTC USD or the Bitcoin, but it went above and beyond that, right? It even reached I think that was 80,000, right? So, anyways, what can you even expect next week? I'm going to be expecting price. Let's delete this. I don't think next week price will even like come down to these levels, right? Let's do the weekly analysis. If price is to drop, right, I'm going to be expecting price to drop to this area, and then it continues with the higher time frame zone, higher time frame trend, right? The trend is going up. As you can see, all this momentum, all this bullish momentum, and on the weekly, this is the end of the week, right? So I'm just convinced that I'm going to be expecting price to come to this zone between 86,000 and 88,000. So this is gonna be my TP level, but in the meantime, we have these obstacles, right? Why is this an obstacle? As you can see here and then in here, price reversed on this area or on this zone, right? So I'm expecting price to drop, retest this, right? And then it continues with the trend, with the volume, with the buy volume, right? Up to this between 86 and 88,000, right? So I'm going to be buying this. That's the only thesis that I have on BTC.